Senior producer from NFL Films, Greg Cosell, joining us as we dive into the position groups of the draft prospects for the 2023 NFL Draft. Greg here to help us chop up the tape on some of these guys. Before we get to these prospects, Greg, it is official now. Taylor Rapp signed to a one-year contract by the Bills, which gives them an interesting trio of veteran players at the position now with Poyer, Hyde, and Rapp. Now, Steve and I have been kind of commiserating on this, wondering a player of Taylor Rapp's caliber is going to get on the field in some capacity. And we know the last year in Carolina, defensive coordinator Sean McDermott made use of some three safety looks.
Yep.
Do we think we could see the return of that with a player of Rapp's caliber now on Buffalo's roster?
The old big nickel with three safeties. You wonder about that. Obviously, they've been literally 100%, not quite, but close, in terms of playing conventional nickel with Johnson in the slot. You wonder, didn't they play a little bit big nickel a few years ago with Marlowe?
Yeah, with Marlowe, Saran Neal sometimes.
Yeah.
It was kind of a corner safety hybrid.
Yeah, so, I mean, this wouldn't be brand new. Rapp is certainly more of a closer to the line of scrimmage player than he is a back-end player, just given the way in which he plays. But you're right. I mean, he's not necessarily a guy you sign if you're just going to play him on special teams, so they must have a plan. And we know, obviously, because Leslie is not there this year, maybe Sean has some different ideas about some things he wants to do that he, hasn't done in the last couple of years. So maybe we will see some big nickel, which, as you said, Chris, he's done before.
What does that mean? Who comes off the field?
Well, if you're going to go big nickel, you're probably going to bring Johnson off the field, I would think. I mean, let's think of it. Obviously, it's been a team that they've played two linebackers for the most part. So they've been playing two linebackers and nickel. So, they've been playing a 4-2-5. So does the 4-2-5 now become big nickel on Johnson's off the field? Unless they see him as good enough to, in a sense, fill a linebacker role, but I would doubt that.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing you do is go pure dime with just Milano on the field and go with 6.
But you're not going to do that on first down or second.
No.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. You could do that. I mean, certainly, depending on how they see the linebacker position, we're obviously going to get to talk about some now.
Right.
But depending on who the second linebacker is with Milano, it's very possible you could move to play dime because they were not a dime team. With Edmonds and Milano, I don't think they played 10 snaps a dime all year.
Right. Let's begin with every Bills fan's favorite linebacker in the draft, Jack Campbell out of Iowa, a guy who we found out is actually working in the pre-draft process with Luke Kuechly, who has it's only gotten Bills fans more excited knowing the connection, obviously, between Luke Kuechly and Sean McDermott, having played under Sean. Now this guy is tutoring Jack Campbell in the pre-draft process. Is he a complete linebacker for the NFL game?
Well, it's funny because in many ways he's like Kuechly. He's just not quite as athletic. Kuechly was special, obviously a top 10 pick in a draft, if memory serves me correct, or certainly top 12. Campbell is not quite that level of athlete, but he was one of my most enjoyable players to watch on tape because he just knows how to play. He played stacked backer. He's 6'5", a legit 6'5". That's what he was at the combine. He was 249. He ran. His measurables were a lot better, I think, guys, than people thought. Although you wouldn't say he's a twitchy, sudden mover. He's not that guy. But then again, most 6'5" guys are not. But he's really good against the run. I mean, he's one of those guys that has size, as we said, and that's a trait. He's got physicality. I mean, he's got that stack and shed ability. He sees things really quickly, which is what Kuechly was. So it's high level, key and diagnose, and then he reacts. And he had a really good mix in the run game of being patient when he needed to, but then being decisive when he saw it and he triggered. He had an innate feel for when to attack with aggressiveness and when to play with patience and assignment integrity. I thought he was a really good prospect. And again, the knock on him will be that he's not a twitchy athlete, that he doesn't have, that hip fluidity that everybody talks about, that you'd ideally like to see. but I think that he's just a really smart, good football player.
How about when he's in pass coverage? And I've seen a couple of clips where his eyes seem to be really disciplined. He knows where to look.
Yes.
He's got good ball instincts. He can, he plays the ball well for a linebacker. What about his coverage skills and his ability to drop into the coverage?
In zone, Steve, he's really good. That's his thing. The question with him would be if, and maybe it's not a question if the Bills were to draft him, because Edmonds rarely matched up to the tight end. It was Milano. So
right.
I'm not sure Campbell, despite his height and his size, would be considered at this moment in time a really good tight end matchup. Maybe over time, because he does have the size. But again, if the Bills were to draft him and to stay with, the 4-2-5, he would not likely be the tight end matchup. But I think the concern would be man-to-man on tight ends. He's a really good underneath his own defender.
Another linebacker that people have high on draft boards is Drew Sanders, the Alabama transfer who went to Arkansas, and then pretty much turned into a dominant pass rusher. He was more up on the line, but some people are wondering he should be an off-the-ball guy because they worry he doesn't have enough sand in the pants to play up on the line of scrimmage in the NFL. Number one, Greg, where do you see him lining up in the NFL? And if it is at off-the-ball linebacker, what are we anticipating in terms of a transition?
Well, Brownie, that's where he predominantly played at Arkansas. He was an off-the-ball linebacker. He only lined up on the line of scrimmage on third down and in selected situations. He was an off-the-ball backer. And he almost always aligned to the passing strength of the offensive formation. And, this is a new position for him because he went to Alabama and it was there for 2 years, and he was recruited as a pass rusher. But obviously they had Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, who's the next guy. He'll probably be a top 15 pick next year. So he was an off-the-ball backer. And, he shows a really quick trigger in the run game. I thought, given that he doesn't have a lot of experience, he saw things pretty well and pretty cleanly. I think he needs to improve as a tackler, which isn't surprising given that he didn't have to make those kinds of tackles as an edge player in his background. But he took on blocks with strength, with arm extension. He played off blocks and made tackles in the run game. He's got great play speed and pursuit range. He's a really interesting guy. He's physically tough. You could tell he's mentally tough. He's a football player. And he's got really good size. He's over 6'4". He's 235. I would bet he could get to 245 and probably not lose much of his movement ability because he's got that kind of frame. And again, he can be used as a pass rusher. He showed some really good pass rush traits. But I would say, and I don't have the number right in front of me, I would bet he played 75, 80%, of his snaps as an off-the-ball linebacker.
And then you talk about guys like Jack Campbell and Drew Sanders, and they're big, 240-pound guys.
Yeah.
Sanders even bigger. Then you get to the other guys on this list, like a Trenton Simpson, who's 6'2", 235 out of Clemson, who's coming out as a junior. What can you tell us about him? The rest of these prospects we're going to talk about are a little bit undersized by these standards.
Yeah, and then it depends what they're looking for, because Milano is obviously a really good athlete, and he's sort of the guy who does everything for them. Simpson is one of those really, really good athletes. He's a long, fluid athlete. He played multiple positions at Clemson, but I think he's going to be a stacked linebacker in the NFL. That's what I think. If you draft Trenton Simpson, to me, you're drafting him to be a stacked backer. And ultimately, he's got athletic movement. He's a run and chase guy. He's one of those guys that can play inside out, sideline to sideline with great play speed and range. I think that he plays really well in space. He's an active player. He's just a really, really good athlete, plays with a high energy level. And because he's such a good athlete, you kind of get that impact playmaking dimension to his game, which I think will be further cultivated at the NFL level. So, he's one of those guys that he has that desirable size, speed, athleticism profile that obviously everybody wants. And if you're 6'2", 235, that's pretty good because, a lot of the guys who have that profile are 6 feet and 225. He's 6'2", 235, which is good enough size.
Right, but then the next guy takes a step down even from that, 6'1", 225, Daiyan Henley from Washington State. He makes a lot of plays, but
Yeah.
are we getting into a concerning area with the size, or does he just make so many plays that it doesn't matter?
I would say it's for the Bills, it'd be concerning because I don't think you want Milano and Henley. Then you don't have any size at linebacker. So again, I don't know how they feel about it. I'm just saying that I think you probably would not want to be in that situation, but maybe they're okay with that. But yeah, Henley's 225. He's a really fun guy to watch. He's only played 2 seasons at stacked linebacker. I mean, this guy came out of Crenshaw High School in LA. He was a wide receiver. He went to Nevada, played wide receiver his first 2 years. Then they moved him to safety, then linebacker, and then he played his last year, just 1 year at Washington State in the Pac-12. So he has still much to learn and understand from a play recognition perspective. But this guy is a compact, sudden, supercharged, competitive athlete. I mean, his good plays, he just looks like he's shot out of a cannon. He's got really good play speed and range, really high activity level. But Brownie, he's 6 feet 7/8 and 225. That's not really big. So that's a decision that becomes a team and scheme specific decision for the teams that are interested in him. Do you want a guy who's basically 6'1", 225? Now if Edmonds was your other linebacker, you might say that's fine. But with Edmonds gone and Milano, who's a smaller line, because Milano was a kind of a safety in college. He's not a 6'4" guy. So, the question is, do you want 2 shorter guys like that?
Greg, thanks for being on with us. Appreciate it. And we'll see you again hopefully next week before the draft.
Well, I'll be around. I'm here.
All right, man.
I'll be in my office watching tape.
That's
I'm
right.
doing that right now.
We'll hit you up with another position group. So thanks, Greg, as always. We'll be sure you'll be on it for us next week. So thanks for the time and the insight.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.